UFC 297, Sean Strickland versus Dricus du Plessis is over. It was a spooky night of fights, way spookier than I anticipated. Low key, the night of the dog, actually. Just gonna be kind of coping hard throughout this whole fucking thing. I went 5-7 total, not good at all. But I did pick up some decent underdogs. I picked up very decent underdogs in this card. Just gonna get straight into it. Malcolm Gordon versus Jimmy the Brick Flick. Malcolm X Gordon versus Jimmy the Brick Flick. First fight of the night, man. Jimmy Flick, we know he has to be respected on the ground, right? But everything I said about Malcolm Gordon, I think, was still true. He came out guns blazing. He was violating Jimmy Flick. Just fucking got landed in literally the worst position to land with the worst guy, like in conjunction. Like, it was absolutely horrible. Jimmy Flick gets a nice little submission victory to pull it out. I wasn't too sure if Malcolm Gordon retired or if Jimmy Flick said it was his last fight. I was just straight up fucking coping, man, because I picked Malcolm Gordon to win that fight, and I think Malcolm Gordon was winning that fight. It's like, my first reaction was fluke win, but, like, that's Jimmy Flick's game type shit. Like, maybe the way it fell into a little bit of fluky, a little bit spooky, a bit queer, but it is what it is. Moving on. Great win for Jimmy Flick, though. I don't want to take that away from him. Great win for Jimmy Flick. He pulled through. He was taking massive shots. He was getting rocked by Malcolm Gordon a little bit. He was spooked a bit by Malcolm Gordon, I think. Great win. Next fight, Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Priscilla Zombie Girl Cachoeira. Great fight. Not for Priscilla Cachoeira. Amazing fight for Jasmine. Jasmine was the pick. Jasmine was a big favorite going into this fight, but she looked even better than I thought she was going to. Absolutely dominated Priscilla, beat her from pillar to post, really. The entire fight did end in a submission at the end. The stats absolutely terrified me. I remember at the end of the first round, it was like 112 or 114 to like 3 or 4 in terms of strikes for Jasmine Jasudavicius, and I was like, holy shit, like, that's intense already. We've seen that shit happen before, but like, that's already insanity, like, type shit. But then when it basically doubled up and it was like 226, 228 to like fucking like, again, like 6-7 strikes, I was like, Jesus Christ, at the end of round 2. And then round 3, again, it ended, I think, I don't remember how many shots she landed officially. I think it was somewhere around 300, over 300, like to like 20 something. Just absolutely mind boggling. I said in my live reaction in my little short, you have to consider throwing in the towel. And please hear me out. Please hear me out. I know, like, you never see that, even though it's in the rules. Like, people don't do it for a reason. If you know your fighter is just going to take the punishment type shit, just going to take completely unnecessary damage in a fight that they've long lost, like they've given up on or they're just outclassed, consider throwing in the towel. I mean, save them. That shit was absolutely brutal. You could say Priscilla Cachoeira deserves it for being a little bit of a dirty fighter. That's all fine and dandy with me. I'm not gonna naysay that. Excuse me. Priscilla Cachoeira, Jesus Christ, I don't know. Unbelievable damage sustained. Multiple fights worth of damage sustained in that fight. Great performance by Jasmine. Well-deserved bonus for her. Well-deserved bonus. I'm very glad she got that. Moving on to spooky hours. Not spooky hours, but just like, again, not even, we can't, I'm not coping as hard as this one because I said Johan Linnes is sloppy as dog shit. He is so fucking sloppy, bro. Congrats to Sam Patterson for not getting KO'd, because I think he got clipped. He got a decent clipping one time, and it was spooky hours, but just finished fucking Johan, and it just was like over. Like, that's just how it is, you know, anticlimactic. It is what it is. Like, fights end like that. Good underdog win for Sam Patterson. I picked Johan. I feel like an idiot for picking Johan now, like, because I knew, I was saying how sloppy he was. I was like, he's sloppy as dog shit. But Sam Patterson fights like Lucas Almeida, stands straight up, chin in the air, and he got fucking sent to the shadow realm in his last fight. So I was just relying on Johan to get finishes. I rely on people to get finishes so much. I'm just so bloodthirsty. I think there's going to be finishes. Like, not even I rely. I just think there's going to be a lot more finishes than there always are. And it's just, I'm just a bloodthirsty demon. Moving on, though. Great win for Sam Patterson. Finishes Johan in a nice little underdog victory for him. Jillian Robertson versus Polyana Viana. Absolute tremendous performance for Jillian. I picked Jillian. People were saying that this fight was going to be a lot closer, and Polyana was saying like, "Oh, I'm the better grappler than Jillian." Yeah, come on now. That was tweaked. That was absolutely fucking fried. Jillian striking, spooky hours. Her striking, Jillian Robertson striking, spooky hours. Grappling, that's fine. I like that, but. And she got the finish, it was tasty. It was very tasty for her. Very tasty for her. I like that very much. Nice. Get it done. Get him the fuck out of here. Like, very nice. Not really a lot to say on that. Just a good performance by Jillian Robertson. Good submission victory for her. Or did she get the sub? I'm tweaking, actually, maybe. But good victory for Jillian Robertson. Excuse me for tweaking. I'm still a little fried. I'm still coping fucking hard, man. I'm really coping from a combination of Malcolm and obviously Malcolm, Gordon, Mike Malott, and fucking Sean Strickland, bro. Myra, I'm not even really coping about that she just got violated. Moving on, though. Sergey Sidi versus Raymond Tavares 2. Amazing fight. I think that was the fight of the night. To me, I just think that was the fight of the night. I don't know. Maybe I'm fried. The way that people were talking about how the rounds were judged for Sean Strickland versus Dricus du Plessis had me, was literally gaslighting me and making me think that I don't understand fights at all. But, nah, that was an amazing fight. That was an absolute war by both men. Big shout out. Congratulations to Raymond Tavares. Fucking the savage. The savage, man. He fought like a savage. But so did Sergey. Big shout out to Sergey, too. It takes two to fight a fight like that, for real. Despite Raymond Tavares missing weight, which had me pissed at first. Obviously, I picked Sergey. But great performances from both men. Raymond Tavares' fucking elusiveness and his boxing, very clean. It has to be respected. Definitely earned a new fan in me. I'd watched his previous fights when I was doing my research for this, but, I can't call myself a fan of Raymond, nor Sergey Sidi. But I'm a fan of both guys, low-key. Raymond specifically, though, I will be looking for your next fight with glee. I'm very excited for your next fight. I'm very excited to see you fight, my brother. That was a great fight. I'm pretty sure, I'm 99.9% certain, Raymond, that your son commented on one of my shorts. And he was like, yes, sir, my dad won that fight. So shout out to you guys, man. Big fight. I hope you guys are celebrating, living it up. Spend some time with your family. Enjoy being in the UFC, brother, with a nice, tasty fucking win. Enjoy that. Hard-fought win, too. Put you on the map right away. At least for those in the know. Sergey Sidi, though, he hung in there. I'm not really saying much about Sergey Sidi, but Sergey Sidi hung in there. He took massive damage. Massive fucking damage. Was a bloody mess. My friend and my sister were referring to him as the mask. He had the mask on. He had a mask on. Massive damage. Ramon's hands, absolutely fucking deadly. He's throwing those shits with lethal intentions, for real. With lethal intentions. And he knows when to get the fuck out of spots. He knows how to avoid getting trapped against the cage. I thought to myself, because Ramon, and I'm sure if Ramon watches his fight back, he'll agree, he favors when he tries to elude, when he tries to even just head movement, not even just trying to run out. He likes the left side. He likes to dip off to his left, and I swear, if I was screaming during the fight multiple times, because Ramon was able to get touched. Ramon was also getting touched by Sergey multiple times. Just not as effectively, the strikes weren't as strong. They didn't have the punch. They didn't have they didn't have the spice that Ramon's had, really. But if Sergey landed, I swear to God, when he was fucking unorthodox, if he threw a jab head kick right behind it, or maybe even a 1-2 right head kick, right high kick, that fight might have went completely differently. I don't want to sound salty about that, though, because even though, it's very strange, right? I'm getting a little scatterbrained, but there was a live odds update, I think, in the third round, and it was minus 500 or 600 for Sergey Sidi, and I thought I saw that wrong. I don't even know if I saw that correctly, but I was I have no idea how anyone thinks Sergey's winning this fight. It's damage. It's fucking damage. I know it has to be, and this is going to sound so hypocritical later on, but I know it has to be, the real rule is damage, and you have to confine that damage to the round that the damage was dealt in. You know, if a dude gets a devastating cut in round 2, and that cut just doesn't even get exacerbated, it gets cleaned up, but then it bleeds a shit ton in round 3, that's not fresh damage, you know. Sergey, though, I think you can't really tell. He was getting fresh damage as well. Really, but if people are like, oh, like, you know, I don't know how people even really think Sergey won that fight. And I don't say that in like, oh, people are dumb. I actually, I really don't know. If you thought Sergey won that fight, please let me know. I picked Sergey. I picked Sergey to win. I wanted him to win. I did not want there to be a robbery. I thought Raymond Tavares won that fight. He won that motherfucking fight. There's no way. You can't really convince me otherwise. I just want to understand how you think Sergey won that fight. I don't say that to be facetious, to mock people. I really just want to know. Because it was a close fight, or maybe not that close, but it was a very competitive fight. Sergey did not give up a moment during that fucking fight. He was still pushing forward. You can say aggression, like ring generalship, octagonship, that shit means nothing to me, basically. Like, it has to be such a dog shit fight, or such an absolutely razor thin close fight for like ring generalship and that type of shit to matter. Not aggression, but like that to matter to me. Damage, it was pretty one-sided. Raymond had some damage of his own. He was wearing it on his face as well, but he way better shape than Sergey. Great win for Raymond Tavares. That's all I'll really say about that before I just rant and ramble on in circles. Fantastic win for Raymond Tavares. I kind of get, I guess, now that I think about it, why they maybe didn't give that fight of the night, because maybe Raymond missed weight. Maybe, if that's the reason. I mean, I know Raymond missed weight. He's already going to fork over a bit of his purse. Give him a little... That was a good performance, you know. I do want to see the man get rewarded for a performance like that. Both dudes, you know. Both dudes. I hope Sergey got, like, some under-the-table locker room bonus for that shit, really. I hope they both did. Moving on. Tremendous underdog pick. A lot of people had Charles Jourdain winning this fucking fight. I did not think so. I thought the frame was going to be a problem from Sean Woodson. I thought Sean Woodson's boxing game, it shows. He's getting, like, more awkward with his boxing. He's going away from less, like, orthodox traditional boxing. I personally think, I'm not a boxer. When I did train, I did Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu, but I think he's moving away from more, like, orthodox boxing to, like, that more awkward, tailored, personal, custom style, so to speak. And it worked well for him. It worked fucking wonders. Charles Jourdain got smoked. I don't give a fuck. Big win. You had people at the end thinking that Sean Woodson had said himself, he was like, oh, I don't know who won that fight. I thought Sean Woodson won that fight, you know. He didn't smoke Charles Jourdain. I'm just hyped that my underdog pick went through. But it was a good win for Sean Woodson. That's what we needed. We needed that long frame. People thought Charles Jourdain was going to fucking TKO Sean Woodson because they're like, oh, Sean Woodson has no chin. Sean Woodson gets cracked. Did y'all watch his fights? Like, he sometimes gets touched. It's pretty impossible for a dude to evade every single shot unless he's like a brute wrestler or some shit like that. But he rolls with a ton of his shots. I hope people saw that now. Like, Sean Woodson, you're good, brother. You're nice. I like watching you fight. You know, maybe it wasn't the most entertaining fight while watching it, but it was a solid win. Good shit on Sean Woodson. Used his frame, his length. That's going back to that. I said in my prediction, it's one thing to be tall and long. It's a completely other beast to know how to fight tall and long, to know how to use your body. Sean Woodson knows how to use his body. Great win, great performance for Sean Woodson. Moving on to another juicy underdog pick, back to fucking back. If I went with Raymond Tavares, that would have been 3 juicy underdogs knocked down. Brad Katona versus Garrett Armfield. I went with Garrett Armfield, the underdog. Now, this was kind of an emotional pick, kind of. Like, emotion had a little bit to do with it. I saw Brad Katona on the Tough finale. I really wasn't too aware of him before Tough. Tough as in The Ultimate Fighter. Season 31, I believe, Michael Chandler versus Conor McGregor. They were the coaches, and the whole just for a little bit of context, the whole theme of this season was prospects, dudes that haven't been to the UFC, prospects, versus veterans, or dudes that basically, for one reason or another, and I don't mean to say this in the most negative way that it's going to sound, for one reason or another, they washed out of the UFC, right? So team of veterans, team of prospects. The veterans smoked all the prospects, all but one, I think. Maybe two won their fights. Two prospects won their fights. The finale was Brad Katona versus Cody Gibson. I had Cody Gibson in that fight. Brad Katona actually dug deep, though, and he won that fight. Hey, that whole night with the judges was spooky. I'm not going to get into that. I digress. But that left a bad taste in my mouth. I was praying on Brad Katona's downfall. The universe righted itself. They still haven't righted themselves for Mario Batista versus Damon Blackshear, which was on that same night, if you'll remember. But that's coming. That's coming. Mario Batista actually kind of redeemed himself with his most recent performance against Ricky Simone. Garrett Armfield, great fight, great boxing, nice and elusive. Put it on Brad Katona. Brad Katona was there the entire time, though. He was there to fight. He did not give up. He did not get dog-walked. It was a very, very, very close fight. I do think Garrett won. I was happy when Garrett won. I was praying. Not gonna lie, I was spooked. Because maybe actually I didn't think Garrett won all the way. But it's okay. It's okay. Drugs and alcohol in the back for the judges. That's what I fuck with. Garrett Armfield picks that one up. Now, here we go to a spooky one. Arnold Allen versus Movsar Evloev. Movsar Evloev. Now, Movsar put on a great fight. So did Arnold Allen. Arnold Allen got hurt bad on the feet by fucking Movsar. I feel like people aren't talking about that as much. He really did. There was a moment where he got hurt bad, aside from the cut. Those knees, maybe I'm just absolutely biased because Arnold Allen was my pick. I thought those knees, they got to let them go. You know, you let them go. Because, like, how many times have we seen that shit happen and it's the other way? They say nothing. They say nothing. Like, it's not even the ref is like, chill, watch out. Like, no, it's not a fucking word, not a peep. Maybe once out of 4 times that shit happens, you'll hear an announcer say something, a commentator say something, like on some dumb shit. Like, maybe that was illegal, that looked illegal, that was questionable. No. But here, it was a big fucking deal. I honestly thought that Arnold Allen did enough to win that fight. Maybe I'm coping hard. I have to rewatch that. I might be coping hard. I'm going to rewatch that, watch some other people's reactions, see what they have to say, because maybe I'm just coping hard. But the way I remember it, Arnold Allen, I thought, won that one. He did enough. He took a lot of damage. I guess he took more damage than Movsar Evloev, but I thought he won. I thought he won rounds 1 and 3, low-key. Low-key. Unless I'm misremembering and the knockdown and the big cut was was round 1 for Evloev. But either way, not too much more to say about that shit. Arnold Allen's still good. Movsar, he apologized for being a decision merchant, but that, even for a decision, was a very entertaining fight. Very nice. Very nice. Moving on. We've been in the main, that was the first fight of the main card. Chris the Action Man Curtis, or Sancho Panza, if you got the reference from my prediction video. Sancho Panza to Sean Strickland's Don Quixote, or Don Strickland, or Sean Quixote, whichever one you like. But we got to chill with that because he got... We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. But now it's Chris Curtis this time. Chris Curtis versus Marc-Andre Barriault. Great fight. Maybe not the most exciting one, you know, but it was a good fight. I thought Chris did enough to win that fight as well. Marc-Andre Barriault scared the fuck out of me leading up to this fight. I wanted to pick him as an underdog, actually. I really wanted to pick him. I switched up literally on paper. Like, I switched up 4 or 5 times for that fight. On paper, I even wrote it down, switched twice. Ended up with Chris Curtis. We had the successful pick. Juicy little decision victory for Chris, the Action Man Curtis. You know, great hands from Chris Curtis. You love seeing those juicy, tremendous, fucking powerful hooks. Ripping the body with nasty hooks, a la the other guys. Moving on. Oh, God, man. Just fucking heartbreaking spooky hours vibe. Not even spooky hours. Spooky hours is for people that actually put in a good fight. It's for spooky shit. This was just a vibe killer. Vibe killer, parlay smoker, whatever you call it. Not parlay smoker because people probably did bet on fucking Neil Magny. Mike Malott. Proper Mike Malott versus Neil the Haitian Sensation Magny. This is going to be a quick one. What happened in this fight is Mike Malott dominated Neil Magny, took him on the ground, smothered him, held him there, violated him, hurt him with leg kicks for 2.5 to 2 3/4, or 2.5 to 2 3/4 of the rounds, right? So most of the fight. In I think the last minute, my exact time might be a little tweaked. And we're gonna say approximately the last minute of the fight, Mike Malott gets reversed, ends up on the bottom. Neil Magny takes off on him, and in my opinion, Mike Malott just fucking quits. He fucking quits, shells up, and just takes all the shots from Neil Magny, gets him the fuck out of there. Third round, late KO TKO. Fuck Mike Malott. We have to now pray. It's tough. Not even I. But some shit like that makes you want to prey on Mike Malott's downfall just so he gets the fuck out of here. We don't need that shit. And something that absolutely disgusted me, it made me sick, was they're asking Dana in the post-fight press conference, Mike Malott was supposed to be our Canadian chance. Is there anyone else? Or what do we need to have another one of those? Shut the fuck up. Your boy got murked. And I picked him. But that made me kind of not happy because I didn't want my pick to lose, obviously. But it was sublime. It was very sublime. Fucking Mike Malott on the verge of tears, laying on the ground. Did that just happen? Did that just happen? Yes, this is reality. This is fucking reality. You quit. You're the Tin Man. The new Tin Man. I'm considering putting that dude as my thumbnail, but fuck it, that might be too much. He's the Tin Man. He has no heart. From the Wizard of Oz, the Scarecrow has no brain. The Cowardly Lion, he wants courage. The Tin Man, no fucking heart. Mike Malott is the Tin Man. It is what it is. It's tough. It's tough, man. It's fucking absolutely tough. You can't guess that shit. There's no, not a single human being who fucks with fights, even in general, no person thought, oh, Mike Malott's going to dominate him for 2.5 rounds, or basically almost the entire fight, get reversed and quit. No one thought that. No one thought that shit. No one at all. Moving on. Fuck Mike Malott. Mayra Bueno Silva versus Raquel Pennington. Great fight for Raquel Pennington. I picked Mayra Bueno Silva, and all of my worst nightmares came true. The worst nightmares are, if you watched Holly Holm versus Mayra Bueno Silva, before Mayra got the submission, she looked like absolute dog shit and as sloppy as Johan Linnes. And that kind of came true. She did control her and win round one. Mayra, that is. Mayra won round one, in my opinion. I thought that she dropped every single round after that and got absolutely fucking dominated. It is what it is. It is what it is. Almost a fraud checking, I feel like, because we hadn't, it's strange. Shitada is okay. I needed that roid strength, though. Raquel just fucking violated her. Raquel violated. Absolutely tremendous performance for Raquel Pennington. Congrats, champ. That was the co-main event for the women's bantamweight title, vacant bantamweight title. The number 2 ranked Raquel Pennington versus the number 3 ranked Mayra Bueno Silva. Very nice win. Very nice performance for Raquel Pennington. Now moving on to the main event. Right. God. Here we go. Sean Strickland versus Dricus du Plessis for the men's middleweight title. Or just the middleweight title, I should say. As I'm sure you know by now, Dricus du Plessis won in a split decision judge's call, and he is now the middleweight champion of the world. Here's the thing. I think Sean won that fight. You can start typing Cope now if you like. I think Sean won that fight. I think Sean won rounds 1, 2, and 5, okay? I think Sean won 1, 2, and 5. What does that mean? He won 3 rounds out of a 5-round fight. He wins. I'm also in the same boat as Dana. I think I'm one of those guys, I'm quoting Dana, I'm one of those guys, I think you have to beat the champion to be the champion. And no, not beat by on paper. Yes, you're awarded the victory in a mixed martial arts bout. I mean decisively beat the dude. Have there be no questioning, like, oh shit, you just beat that fucking guy. Like, not finish him. You don't have to finish him. Like, Sean didn't finish Izzy. But he beat the man. He beat the man to become the man. Dricus, well, you know, on the decision, he beat the man. I don't think he really did, though. Like, the damage, I think, was... The damage that Dricus inflicted, the 2 cuts, I should say, I think it was like 2. Sean first got like 1 cut, like right here. And it was leaking in just a teensy bit. And then he got like another cut that started to really, really open up. Or maybe it was the same cut that was exacerbated. I'm not too sure. Dricus' eyes closed up pretty much, and his face was lumped up. In the post-fight press conference, he looked like a dude that would only be champion if there was an absolute war, which it wasn't like a straight-up war. It was a good fight, but it wasn't an absolute war. He looked like a dude that won by, like, getting his ass kicked and knocking someone the fuck out. Like, for real. Like, that's what Dricus looked like. I haven't seen Sean, but... Sean's visual was just horrible, man. Like, and we're going to get into, like, the analysis of the fight, like, their styles and stuff in a second. I'm just kind of just rambling, just shooting my thoughts out. Sean's damage just was visibly, like, horrible. Like, his whole face was covered in... Half his face was covered in blood. It looked actually sick. It looked dope. Because, like, Sean really didn't get... He was very composed. And it looked like... That's going to be in, like, some Sigma male edits or some shit. Some crazy shit like that. But... You know, he was on his Patrick Bateman shit. It just didn't work. And the thing is, we can't be surprised, right? Sean fights like that. What you see is what you get. What you see is what you get from Sean Strickland. He's very consistent in how he fights. I will say, though, I bought into it. I did buy into it. And it's there. There's some... I'm getting ahead of myself. I bought into the allure, the legend, the minor myth of Sean's grappling game, which we haven't really been too exposed to. You know, Sean's apparently this amazing grappler. He loves to strike. You know, he doesn't really use it. Only ever uses it defensively. Which was the case last night, but Dricus took him down more than he's been taken down ever. The one saving grace, the silver lining of that, is Sean was pretty much able to get up every time. Like, he really wasn't ever too controlled by Dricus. I think some of those takedowns shouldn't have weighed as much as they did. Dricus had a phenomenal game plan. It just seemed like a pattern. I have to go back and obviously see. But I think in, like, the last minute of the first 3 rounds, Dricus went for a broody takedown and got it. And he got it. And that was a very good takedown to try to literally take those rounds and actually try to beat the man, you know? Because they were good takedowns. Sean not only got taken down, there were a couple times where he got taken for a fucking ride, and he got slammed. You have to admit that. Dricus, you know, Sean survived the onslaught. He survived the onslaught 100%. Dricus showed a lot by going the distance. He's never went the distance before. It was a very impressive performance by both men. Dricus, it was an insane physical performance. It was very impressive to see him last, and not only last, but actually keep up and even seem to, like, do well, do better than he maybe did initially, you know, later on as the fight went. That was amazing. Sean, I think, I didn't peep the stats, but from the unofficial scorecards when they showed up, I remember Sean was, like, close to, like, tripling his stats, like, had him more than doubled at one point, his strikes, so... It is damage, that counts, you know, but I think that damage was mainly done in 2 rounds, in rounds 3 and 4. Sean might have gotten that cut on the side of his head in round 2, if I remember it correctly, but Dricus' eye was already swelling by then. Like, I think the eye swelling is worse than a cut over here. Like, no bullshit. A small cut, like... Hey, I don't know what to say, man. It's tough to cope. I really think that Sean won that fight. I think Sean won that fucking fight, man. Dricus fought his ass off. Sean fought his ass off somewhat. that sounds like I'm hating, but I feel like Sean could have pressured more. Like, there wouldn't be really any, like, questioning round 2 for Sean. Like, I'm just coping, man. Great win for Dricus du Plessis, of course. Great fucking win. You know, Sean, going back to more of the analysis and actual breakdown of the fight. So, Sean started out extremely well using his boxing, fighting his, like, you know, signature style, you could say. Very boxing heavy. But it's, you can call Sean one-dimensional and not be wrong. He pretty much is one-dimensional. He throws in kicks sometimes. But he's pretty one-dimensional, you know, and it works until it didn't. Dricus mixed in everything. Dricus was boxing with Sean. Dricus was throwing kicks, jumping in with elbows, blitzing him, going for takedowns, obviously, getting takedowns, you know. It was just different. It was a lot more of a complete performance from the side of Dricus du Plessis, but I think winning the fight in total, like the way that it should be scored, right? If the man wins 3 rounds of a 5-round fight, he wins the fight, you know. Dricus du Plessis is the UFC middleweight champion of the world. The only problem is he didn't win. Hey. I'm fucking coping, but it's just like that sometimes, you know? What else can we do but cope? Seriously, Sean coping heavy right now, I bet, but like, I thought Sean won that fight, man. And I know Sean accepted it, like, the moment that they announced the decision, but I thought Sean won that fight. Now I think we got a little break up until fights. I think there's no fights next week. I think it will be returning in February. It's going to feel like a year. God damn. Again, I went 5-7 on my picks. I'll read them out, actually, again. I'll give a little last recap. So we had first fight of the night, Malcolm Gordon versus Jimmy Flick. Malcolm Gordon was the favorite. I went with the favorite in Malcolm Gordon. He lost by submission to Jimmy Flick. I'm coping saying it was a fluke, but hey, it's Jimmy Flick's game. You know, is the man's game a fluke? Maybe. Sure. Malcolm Gordon, bro. That was tragic. That was actually just fucking tragic. And it was just such a bad vibe. For the rest of the night, I was tweaking. And then, like, once Johan Laness, like, lost, I was like, holy shit, it's going to be one of those. And it was one of those. It was one of those cards, honestly. One of those cards. You know what I'm talking about. So Malcolm Gordon lost. Jimmy Flick won that first one, 0-1 to start it off. Then we had Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Priscilla Cachoeira. Thank you, Jasmine, for evening us out. And that kind of saved my vibe. That brought me back to normal a little bit. Wasn't tweaking out anymore. Then we had Johan Laness, which basically just fucking kicked me back down, just brutally kicked me right back down. And, like, I was just like, God damn, man, anticlimactic. I just watched it happen, and I was like, wow, I didn't even finish rolling up my fucking J. Like, shit was cancerous, really thinking on that. But I could accept that. I can accept one like that. You can accept those. So we were 1-2 at that point. Then moving on to Jillian Robertson versus Polyana Viana. Moved up to 2-2. Jillian got it done. Thank you, Jillian. Great fight. Well-deserved bonus. Jasmine definitely more deserved, but I'm okay with Jillian getting that as well. Sergey Sidi versus Ramon Taveras. I picked the favorite, Ramon Taveras. I picked the favorite, Sergey Sidi. Minor favorite over the underdog, Ramon Taveras. Ramon Taveras got it done. And he deserved to. That was not a robbery. That was a very clear decision in my eyes. Good fight for Ramon Taveras. Shout out to... I don't know if Ramon's son is named Leonidas. If you're watching this, if you're still watching this at this point, shout out to Ramon Taveras' son, and shout out to Ramon Taveras. I hope you guys have a great celebration time, you know. A lot of life, happiness, laughter, all that good stuff. And the rest of his kids and his wife, of course. You know. But big shout out to Ramon Taveras' son for commenting on one of my videos. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate that, man. That means a lot to me. He's a little ass kid. Like, I mean, he's straight up a little boy. But it was just cool, you know? It was cool. Your dad put on a hell of a performance, man. So lost that one. We were chilling at a nice little 2-3. Not the worst, you know. I've started off fucking 0-4, 1-5, 1-4 before. Like, shit gets rough. We had a nice little underdog pick. Charles Jourdain versus Sean Woodson. I went with Sean Woodson, the underdog in this one. He got it done. Sean the sniper. He got it done versus Charles Air Jourdain. I think he did more. I think he deserved to win that fight. I'm very glad. A little bit of confusion, mass hysteria, if you will, at the announcing of that one. I heard when Bruce Buffer announced it, I heard Sean, like like Charles, and I thought Charles won. I was like, oh my God, Charles won, because he instantly started celebrating. I was like, Charles won, but then I heard like the Woodson type shit, and I was like, it was like Sean Woodson, and I was like, wait, what? It was so crazy. It was kind of head cracking. Sean won. I'm glad Sean won. Good win for Sean Woodson. I'm excited to see you again, my brother. I want to see him. I'm going to sound like a fucking greedy rat fight fan just saying this, like, but I would like to see a little bit more of a more exciting fight next time. I think you will deliver, though. I think you will deliver. You are an exciting fighter. Just sometimes fights don't play out in the most exciting fashion. Moving on. Another juicy underdog pick. And I switched up. I initially picked Brad Katona. My brain said Brad Katona, but my heart wouldn't let me pick him because I don't like Brad Katona. Absolute decision merchant, stinky pile of dog shit. But he's a good fighter. You know, all that being said, he's a good fighter. Got back into the UFC, even though this season of Tough, the level of competition was crazy. It was basically rigged. Garrett Armfield, very slick striking. You know, he was able to stand on the feet with Brad Katona. He was able to survive on the ground with Brad Katona. I thought he did enough. He was surprised a little bit to have won that decision victory, but I'm glad that he won that decision victory because that was a nice, juicy underdog pick for me. That's all really it about that one, you know. And at this point, we had moved up from 2-3 to now 4-3. Those two juicy underdog picks, those were two underdogs back to back, right? So we ended off the undercard, the entire undercard, 4-3 out of 7 fights. You know, could be better, could have been worse. Moving on to the main card. Arnold Allen versus Movsar Evloev. Movsar, I always say Movsar. Movsar Evloev. Evloev won. You know, that was calm. Arnold Allen. I picked Arnold Allen, unfortunately. So, I went to fucking 4-4 on that. Not too much to say about that. You know, good decision victory, even though I said decision merchant in Evloev. He apologized for being a decision merchant, which it means something, right? It gotta mean something. Like, so, good stuff from Movsar. Moving on, Chris the Action Man Curtis versus Marc-Andre Barriault. Absolutely great decision win for Chris Curtis. Bringing my picks back up to 5-4. I thought he did enough. I'm very glad Chris Curtis won. This was a very tough fight for me to predict. You know, a lot of people seemed pretty sure in Chris Curtis, but I actually wasn't too sure. I thought Marc-Andre was a lot deadlier of a threat than people realized. And he was. You know, he had Chris in some trouble. But Chris weathered the storm, you know, landed good shots, massive body shots. You know, it was good. But he did get cracked a couple times, especially in the clinch. Like I said, Marc-Andre Barriault is a dangerous clinch fighter. He's a very fucking dangerous clinch fighter. It's just the shots seem to be more devastating than they actually are. When you see Marc-Andre hit people in the clinch with like these little uppercuts and hooks, they seem nasty actually. Like they move people's chins around, but they seem fine. They just take it. So it's just some food for thought. Great win by Chris Curtis. Great win by Chris Curtis to put me up to 5-4. And then I dropped, obviously, the last 3 fights, which we'll be getting to. First one being the featured fight of the night. Mike Malott versus Neil Magny. Again, tragedy. Mike Malott, the Tin Man. That's all that has to be said. Mike Malott is the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz. Great win, great way to pull it out of the fire for Neil Magny. For real. Moving on. That's what put me at fucking... Jesus Christ. At 5-5. Moving on to Mayra Buena Silva versus Raquel Pennington, the co-main event for the vacant women's bantamweight title. Absolute schooling by Raquel Pennington on Mayra Buena Silva. Took that fight by decision. It was very nice. It was very nice. Mayra got fraud checked, in my opinion. She's trash. She needs roids. Sean Strickland for the main event for the middleweight title. Sean Strickland in his first middleweight title defense. Sean Tarzan Strickland versus Dricus Stillknox du Plessis. Great fight. Not like the most amazing fight ever, honestly. Like, closer to mids than to, like, amazing. But it was a good fight. Very good fight. Entertaining fight. It was very intense, you know, seeing those dudes go at it. There were very good moments. It was a bit queer, actually, now that I think about it. It was almost like a football game. Like, there were moments of, there was, like, literally seconds of lulling, and then, like, explosive engagements, explosive sequences, you know, and a lot of fights are like that, you know, obviously, but I thought it was a little bit more noticeable in this fight. Again, I don't think Dricus did enough to win. Dricus du Plessis is the middleweight champion of the world. The only problem is he didn't win that fight. Sean Strickland, I think, won that fight. I think if you want to be the champion, you have to beat the champion decisively. Split decision is literally not decisive. But it is what it is. Cope harder. Good win for Dricus. Good fight by Sean. Good to see Dricus' hard work paid off, because I have followed him, you know. Didn't follow him from his debut in the UFC, but I did get put onto him, you know. Originally, I just picked fucking Dricus because I liked his name. And I think that was against Darren Till, maybe. I don't remember, actually, but something like that. And hey, here he is now, the champion of the fucking world, you know. Great win for him. But that was it, 5-7. It was a good night of fights, honestly. But if we look at it as a whole, the weakest card of the year, in my opinion. That's not to say dog shit. Good night of fights. I'm going to say like a B-, like a C+, maybe even almost, which makes it sound not as good, but it was a decent enough night of fights, you know. B-, maybe. B-. Great win for fucking Dricus. Picked Sean. Shit's tough. Ended 5-7. I'll see you guys soon enough. Maybe with an early prediction of the next UFC events. Maybe with something new. I'm considering actually reviewing a couple plays that I've been to recently, like Broadway plays, but if you'd be interested in seeing that or asking me my opinions on any plays, just let me know. Probably not, but but it's just fucking something I've been thinking of, just some shit I've been doing recently. Ah, man, it was a long night of coping. It was intense, man. It was intense. Now the meowing buff is outside my door. If you watched to this far, I thank you very much. Please like the video if you like it. If you dislike it, feel free to dislike it and let me know why you disliked it by please leaving a comment. If you want to see more, subscribe. I'd be very, very grateful. I watch the subscribers go up one by one. So literally, my 18th subscriber, that was nice, thank you. My 19th subscriber and my most recent, the 20th, thank you. Thank you all. Yeah, that's it. Have a good night. Hold your loved ones close. Give them a kiss. God, I'm fucking coping right now. I'm like having PTSD. Whenever I just stop talking and I stare off, I'm having PTSD. Good night. Big kiss.